Hi, my name's Suzanne Rennick and I'm the Head of Clinical Practice Services. My team is heavily involved in the Myeloma UK Early Diagnosis Programme. We want to give patients the best chance to lead a full life with good quality. Unfortunately, delayed diagnosis has a consequence both on survival but also on quality life. So patients can be living with pain, mobility issues and severe fatigue. So basically they're not necessarily able to do the everyday things that we take for granted. 1 in 2 patients are viewed as having had a delayed diagnosis, and as a charity we just see too many patients who really are very much suffering from the consequences of that. People who've lost 4 to 6 inches in height. These might be young people who are living with the psychological impact of the irreversible bone damage which has been done prior to diagnosis. Too many patients are in hospital, lying flat on beds for weeks on end and then living with ongoing pain. Likewise, some patients, end up on dialysis, which might just be for a period of time, or it might be lifelong. And clearly these have a big impact on what you're able to do. Too many patients have to give up their jobs, retire early, and too many patients are living with pain. And we need to change that.
So I'm Dr. Fenella Willis. I'm a consultant haematologist at St George's Hospital. I'm also the co-chair of the Myeloma UK Early Diagnosis Group. So I've been a haematologist for a great many years, nearly 20 years, and what I've seen over that time is a lot of progress in the field of myeloma, particularly in treatments. But what continues to be a problem, and something that I see in my day-to-day work, is patients coming in with a long pathway to diagnosis, and as a result of that having considerable morbidity and early mortality as a result. Some of the key barriers are related to the fact that it is not one sign or symptom that a patient needs to present with for a clinician to suspect myeloma. Often the symptoms are very common, ones that the GPs will often see on a frequent basis, such as back pain or fatigue, and obviously in isolation those symptoms may not trigger an alarm bell to think about myeloma. Equally, the healthcare professionals often don't see myeloma very frequently. We know that GPs may see one case every 3 years, and therefore it may not be at the front of their mind. So we have to develop smart ways to help support a timely diagnosis.
We need to reduce these delays and make myeloma easier to spot. That's why we have the Myeloma Early Diagnosis Programme. There are 3 focus areas. One is around education and awareness. The second is influencing cancer policy, and the third is on research. And by focusing on these areas, we believe we're tackling the biggest barriers to diagnosis. So one of the areas obviously is to raise awareness in GPs, help GPs suspect myeloma, almost like look at all these different vague symptoms. We view it as almost like putting together pieces of a jigsaw, doing that jigsaw, realising that there's a possibility that this patient might have myeloma and therefore order the correct test. So as a part of that, we've done an info guide for GPs, we've done something called a diagnostic tool, we have a myeloma diagnosis pathway, and we have, for example, learning modules on some of the platforms that GPs go for their professional development.
I'm Sheila McKinley and I work in the research and advocacy team in Myeloma UK. On the policy side, what we do is we scrutinise and try and influence cancer strategies and cancer guidelines to make sure that they are working for myeloma patients and their friends and family. One of the problems with these cancer strategies can be that they're designed to reflect all cancers, which means that they can focus on some of the more common cancers, solid tumour cancers like breast cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer. And that can mean that sometimes the rarer cancers, less common cancers like myeloma, get left behind. Policy change is really important. Education for clinicians is really important, but all of that is working within the current system. And if we're going to have transformational change, really big change, then we need to invest in research to drive that innovation. So we've just recently invested £500,000 into really exciting and innovative projects, both of which are looking at the biology of the early stages of myeloma. One of them is designed to see if a screening program for myeloma would be possible, and the other one is looking at how we identify people who are at risk of getting myeloma before they become seriously ill. Our diagnosis programme, partly because it works across so many different elements of diagnosis, is really going to deliver the change we need to make improvements in diagnosis and help patients live as long as possible and with the best possible quality of life.